Ag PhD full episodes and more are now available on Acres TV, the newest ag platform connecting you to fields of information. Look for us on watchacrestv.com.
Two, 4, and 16. During our Farm Basics time today, we're going to talk about the importance of those numbers 2, 4, and 16 when it comes to harvest loss on farms.
Well, you're going to see a lot of farmers around the country over the next couple of months harvesting crops, and that's awesome. We see it all go into the back of that combine. We see it move over into the truck and eventually head to wherever the end user is going to be. But it doesn't all make it into the combine. There's grain that ends up on the ground for various reasons. Obviously, farmers want to get paid for all this grain. They've done all the work, they've made all the investments. Harvest loss is a bad thing. But exactly how much harvest loss are you having? Well, we'll talk about how to figure that out.
If you look at a 1-foot square, we actually make these little 1-foot squares out of PVC pipe, throw them down on the ground, and then we're checking, well, how many seeds do we have in there? If it's corn, it only takes 2 and we get a 1 bushel loss. Soybeans, 4, wheat, 16. Now those aren't exact numbers, but that'll get you real close. 2, 4, and 16, corn, soybeans, and wheat. What's a 1 bushel loss? How big a deal is that? Well, like soybeans, for example, we have a lot of soybeans on our farm. They're worth 10 bucks roughly. So that's a $10 per acre loss. If I have 1,000 acres, that's $10,000 we've lost. But the big question is, I mean, what's the maximum that's kind of acceptable? Because you can't entirely prevent harvest loss.
Well, you would like to think that we could be absolutely perfect and catch every single soybean or corn kernel or wheat kernel in the field. But the challenge is, as you're driving through with that harvesting machine, the harvesting machine is awesome compared to harvesting by hand, where maybe it could be perfect if you're doing it by hand, but you're so much more efficient with that combine running through the field. So when you're hitting it, you need that grain to be at the right moisture percentage. You need a nice sturdy stalk that's gonna hold up so you can slide right through, clip it, and it all drops right into the combine. Farmers a lot of times will say, well, if I can get my harvest loss down to 0.5% or less, I'm doing pretty good. But if I start seeing 1%, 2% loss, that's going to be very costly. In some cases, farmers, if a crop is leaning, for example, may have to harvest in just one direction. They may not be able to drive to the end of the field, turn around and harvest the opposite direction if they want to avoid harvest loss.
And I just say, when we talk about harvest loss, there's also pre-harvest loss that really gets lumped into harvest loss. So in other words, before you even combine the field, you walk out there and you go, uh-oh, I've got grain on the ground. That's not a good thing, but it's important to identify how did the grain get there, where are we having a problem, whether it's with the combine, before the combine was there, should we have been there earlier? There are a lot of different things that go into it. The big thing we wanted to talk about today, though, is farmers are trying to minimize harvest loss, but there's always going to be some that's out there.
One other thing that unfortunately will always be out in our field as well is our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?